who hates going outside and going inside. Skarbrand shall stay in the doorframe. He hates it slightly less.
Yeah, I mean, the blood's flowing alright. To my loins. Welcome back, my friends. Time to sink our teeth into the High-Handed Slayer's campaign mechanics for Total War Warhammer 3. Khorne is up next, because this is the great game after all. Each Chaos God isn't just worried about the armies of Order, they're scheming and plotting to dominate their dark siblings as well. So let's figure out if the Blood God's mechanics will be as over-the-top, ridiculous, and downright overpowered as Tzeentch's. Spoiler alert, they are. His stuff is pretty cracked. Well, I don't know if they're quite on Tzeentch's level, but there's some wild-ass pranks your boy can play. Papa Rage ain't messing around, and he's got some fun toys to play with. Of course, Skarbrand the Exiled One is our first legendary lord, and none of the mechanics covered in this video will be specific to him. He should have his own unique content unveiled at a later date, so everything we talk about today will be the baseline overview for any Khornate subfaction, whether they're led by a legendary Bloodthirster or perhaps a frenzied Valkyrie who gets some action from her daddy on the side. Yeah, I think we should go into this with the expectation that Valkyria the Bloody will be the second legendary lord for Khorne, and I bet it won't be very long until she makes her grand debut after launch. Now obviously, Khorne is a fairly straightforward god, one way to put it. You know what he wants, you know what he's going to try and do. There isn't a whole lot of nuance or subtlety here, so go figure, skulls are the driving force behind your economy. Instead of taking a leisurely stroll to the bank and investing your hard-earned cash money like a normal person, you're going to round up all your enemies and their children and lop off all their heads in honor of Khorne's cranium chair. The more you slaughter, the fancier your skull mansion and skull mobile will be. I know some of you guys have been wondering for a while, will demonic subfactions even have a functioning economy? It's kind of a bit comical, right? To picture a chubby little birdman Harold of Tzeentch waddle his way to the ATM to withdraw some dollary dues and buy his buddies a round of Guinness. But the answer is yes. The financial side of Warhammer is not particularly complex. Economics in the Total War series in general, especially in Warhammer, are not going buck wild, at least not as it pertains to this particular trilogy, and so your economy will be mainly focused around sacking and raising, just like the OG Warriors of Chaos. From that standpoint, not much has changed. Just like anyone else's special resource, you can earn skulls through battles, sieges, dilemmas, and from despoiling the realms of men and elves. But unlike the Skaven, the Druchii, or the Azur, you aren't supposed to hoard this currency for yourself, letting that interest accrue like you're the Eastern Roman Empire. You're expected to dump the skulls at the feet of Khorne's throne, to sacrifice in his name, at which point he will supercharge your armies with movement bonuses and a host of other chaotic enhancements. By the way, even the warriors of the Blood God, as hopping mad and roided up as they are, can occupy settlements now. But in comparison to a god like Tzeentch or Slaanesh, clearly there will be less of a focus on that front because they still cling to vestiges of civilization and culture, which Khorne pretty much entirely eschews. So yes, you can occupy settlements with Khorne, but you'll want to do so strategically because each time you do it, it will cost a significant amount of skulls to properly adorn the place, to hang up a bunch of skeletons for Geheimnisnacht, make it all spooky, paint the walls crimson red in honor of the season. Sacking or raising will be better options than occupying 90% of the time. The other 10% will be those settlements in a fortified, defensible location that can become a new base of operations, like the Brass Keep in the Middle Mountains. It can be a kind of nice vacation spot for you to retreat to when you need maybe a couple turns to unwind and summon some more demonic baddies to your side. But outside the traditional occupy, sack, and raise options, Khorne has two new fancy ones to choose from if you decide to burn everything in a city to the ground. And the first one is called Skulls for the Skull Throne, which, funnily enough, generates 1,000 skulls for your faction. From what I can tell, that's what you'll always get, no matter the settlement, which is kind of a bit weird, because I imagine there'd be quite a few more skulls to reap in Altdorf or Lothern than there would be in a backwater hamlet, but okay. The other option, the one that's a lot more exciting, is called Blood for the Blood God, which is where things start getting real crazy. Essentially, you get a huge boost to casualty replenishment, which is always a big deal, because convalescent time is annoying and nobody likes sitting around waiting for 5 turns to heal their losses. But more importantly, you spawn a Blood Host army nearby. This army cannot replenish or recruit, but costs 0 upkeep and can do anything else a normal army would be able to do. And they are not AI controlled. They're controlled by the player. And they scale with how much you've created, meaning they become much more powerful as you progressively raise more and more regions to the ground, which you're going to be doing anyway. Now, these Bloodhost armies spawn with full movement available right from the word go, and they can attack and raise enemy settlements themselves, creating even more Bloodhost armies. So your game plan here is to get a gigantic rage train going, especially in those areas with a bunch of towns close to one another, and gobble up an entire region's worth of settlements in a single turn, maybe even more. That's almost as insane as the mechanics we've already seen for Tzeentch. Like, you're literally creating armies out of thin air and immediately delta splitting to all the other targets in the immediate vicinity and generating pure profit with them almost instantly. Not just in terms of favor, but also the skulls that lead directly to insane map-wide buffs that in turn let you push your conquest even further and faster. And these armies don't matter, so you can play a bunch of fun battles back to back to back against more powerful forces and not really have to worry about getting dumpstered in a kind of lopsided engagement, while you're still creating an impressive tally of skulls. That just sounds fun and thematic. I mean, yeah, Bloodhost can't replenish, so they will lose momentum relatively quickly, but if you're playing your cards right here, you're creating a buffer zone around your main force, Skarbrand or Volkia, while cutting straight through the heart of enemy territory, destroying their economic and military infrastructure in only a handful of turns. It's a feature you can min-max and push to absolutely crazy limits, but it's not one of those boring ones. It leads directly to kind of fluffy gameplay that fits with what Khorne's main objectives are, which is lots of slaughter and carnage for the lulz. So if you're one of those people that speculated Khorne's campaign would be centered around momentum, similar to Torok's, you were correct. I mean, probably won't be quite on the level of the Brass Bull's eternal, endless bugged rampages, but it's still gonna be really damn strong. With that said, obviously this all depends heavily on what exactly your Bloodhost armies are comprised of. We don't know that yet, and it is a Khornate army, so unlike the checkerboard range spam you'd see from the High Elves on maybe very hard or legendary difficulty, where they literally don't take casualties, in this scenario, your Bloodhosts will take plenty of damage in any normal siege battle, simply because they're melee only. But that's really only an issue for the limp dick starting Bloodhosts, right? Once you've invested in tech and gotten the ball rolling, and start unlocking higher tier Bloodhost armies, with Bloodthirsters and Skull Cannons and Blood Thrones, the snowball potential here is going to get bananas. And it also means you're fighting a ton of battles, which is exactly how a Khornate campaign should function. Naturally though, if you aren't fighting, your momentum will fade to nothing, and that will lead to lower replenishment and lower growth faction-wide. Oh no, the horror. This isn't going to be a problem, because every single army rampaging throughout the countryside will improve your growth, replenishment, global recruitment time, and other stuff. And your Bloodhost armies will also do the same. So if you're snowballing like a boss, you automatically get to snowball even harder, because your cities are leveling quicker, your Bloodthirsters are replenishing faster, you get to fight more battles, and you're making more and more free armies every time you conquer and raise a settlement. It can get completely out of control. In a head-to-head scenario against the AI, it doesn't really matter if you're managing this well, you will snowball faster than any other faction in the game, barring maybe Torok's when his bugged rampages were kind of freaking everybody out. It honestly would not surprise me if they make some tweaks here, like maybe giving Bloodhost armies reduced upkeep instead of free upkeep, because it just sounds bonkers on paper, and it's not the only insane feature Khorne has to share with the world. There's more coming. So let's check out his Unholy Manifestations, a feature that exists for each of the Chaos Gods, but the Hunter of Souls has some interesting ones to choose from here. Total War is the first, unlocked at the start of your playthrough, and it will spawn a small Khornate army to attack your own, which might sound kinda weird on paper, but it's really no different than farming rebels for food to get Skaven Blight up to tier 5 super early, or beating up with the Greenskin rebels with King Lewin. You are earning XP, you are leveling up, you're getting them skulls so you can make Daddy proud. You're just fighting an early battle that will get you up and off your feet. At 1000 Global Khorne Corruption, you will unlock Call of Battle, which gives an army an additional 50% movement range, which is always a huge deal. The more movement range you have, the more ground you can cover, the more stuff you can conquer, Combine that with your blood hosts, and you can roll over things real fast. At 2,000 corruption, you'll get Slaughter Incarnate, which doubles an army's skull gains for several turns. And finally, Khorne's Gaze at 3,000 global corruption disables a friendly army's movement for several turns. And at the end, raises the local settlement automatically and gives a massive number of skulls. Remember that this is all tied to the Great Game, and if Khorne is beating the other three, all the buffs associated with your skulls and manifestations will increase drastically. So like I said, it is a momentum-based faction that can get out of control real fast if left unchecked. So in this particular scenario, if Karl Franz is stationed in Altdorf with, say, a full 20 stack of steam tanks, and you don't want to fight him and the garrison at the same time within a walled settlement, then you can activate Khorne's Gaze and force him to get off his lazy ass to meet you outside, or watch and cackle as the capital city of the Empire automatically explodes only a few turns later. I imagine the AI will be programmed to actually get off their lazy ass and attack you in that scenario, but I also imagine if they don't move and they're inside the settlement when it's raised, that army's probably gone for good. It usually doesn't kick them out, so I'll be curious to see how that all plays out. Now for clear-cut reasons, infiltration and hidden cults aren't exactly the Blood God's forte. It's kind of obvious when you're dealing with a jacked berserker gladiator screaming, "Skulls for the Skull Throne." Not much subtlety or nuance there, but still, Khorne will have cults in Warhammer 3, and these cult buildings you can build can presumably be constructed with the Marauder Cultist hero in the same manner as Pirate Coves or Undercities for the Skaven. The Hideout building generates skulls every turn, fairly standard stuff there. The Fighting Pit gives bonus skulls every time a battle is fought in that province. The Lodge generates a larger supply of skulls per turn if a lord of any faction is present. Could be Skarbrand, could be a lord from an enemy faction. But the Arena, the fourth building, oh, the Arena, makes my winky go, boing, boing, boing. It destroys the cult upon completion, but it teleports your faction leader and their army to the target settlement, which means, with proper prior planning, to prevent piss-poor performance, you could set up cultist heroes on every continent, prepare arenas within important settlements, and essentially teleport Skarbrand or Volkia all around the map. But you aren't just raising one settlement and then bouncing, you're creating a horde of Bloodhost armies before you leave. So you could get 5, 6, 7 armies around Hexadal, then teleport near Lothern and do the same thing. Then teleport to Khemri and do the same thing. And ping pong around the map, swallowing everything in your path. Again, barring Torox and his unlimited rampage bug, I am not sure we have seen a Total War faction that can generate this much insane momentum. It will take some doing, it will take some planning, and it may not work quite that quick or as fast as it kind of sounds like it will on paper, but I can guarantee you, if it comes out with how they're saying it's working right now, you're going to be able to do some crazy stuff. The Arena Cultist building with Bloodhost armies together is bananas. It is bananas, and y'all know how much I love teleporting demons. The fact that this is an actual teleport and not that lame-ass Tzeentch underway stance makes me a very happy boy. Gracier Thankwall better be careful or Skarbrand is coming for that ass. And he's not just gonna march his way across the map like every other faction in the game. He will teleport in. That is sick. But yeah, when it comes to the tech tree, don't really care all that much, honestly. It's split into 8 pillars. 8 is the number of Khorne. There are techs that buff the strength of your Bloodhost armies, which is cool. Most of it will be focused on military recruitment and buffing your units. Go figure. Nothing surprising here, except that you can passively colonize raised settlements just by owning another settlement in that region with a mechanic called Drawn to Destruction, which is interesting and might help counteract that whole mechanic where, you know, the Empire or the Skaven or any other faction might just come in and immediately take a settlement you raised. That passive colonization might kind of deal with that problem to an extent. So, nice little addition there. But in terms of diplomacy, you will automatically be at war with every single faction in the game, except for Skaven, Beastmen, Norskin, and Warriors of Chaos factions. The only demonic faction that does not fall into that category is Slaanesh, because the Dark Prince knows the value of diplomacy, baby. So Slaanesh will not be at war with everyone automatically. Khorne, Tzeentch, and Nurgle will be. No matter what, if they see you, you are at war. Khorne has an innate rivalry with Slaanesh, of course. They hate each other. And Skarbrand's faction, the Exiles of Khorne, has diplomatic penalties with other Khornate factions as well, due to his legendary betrayal of the Blood God. So essentially, what we're saying here is that you shouldn't play Khorne unless you want to fight absolutely everybody on the map, and their mother, and their brother. It just kind of comes with the territory. Skarbrand hates everybody. He just hates his own slightly less. If you're looking for the "this is Total War" achievement, Khorne might just be the faction for you. So, in conclusion, I think there is a clear trend developing here that CA is giving demonic factions some absolutely bonkers mechanics. Tzeentch, who can stop time and prevent entire factions from moving for an entire turn, and grant settlements to himself or other races with the flip of a switch. He can look at Lothar and say, "That's mine now." That's pretty strong, right? Now Khorne can teleport across the map via cultist buildings and immediately start spawning armies that don't cost upkeep, that multiply in an orgy of carnage and slaughter, and drown the world in tides of blood. I think we should expect to see similar OP-ness when we visit Nurgle and Slaanesh too. And that has me pretty excited because, frankly, if any races should be OP in Warhammer 3, it's probably Chaos, right? Demons are a big deal in Warhammer Fantasy, as are the hordes of mortal champions that will herald their coming. So, what do you guys think so far? Does Tzeentch sound stronger or more fun to you? Does Khorne sound stronger or more fun to you? What do you expect from the remaining 2 Chaos Gods? What kind of overpowered mechanics can we expect from them? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you all in the next video. Indie Pride, signing out for now. Have a good one, guys.